Consistency is the superpower. Anyone can be consistent. Anyone can. It doesn't take special intelligence. It doesn't take special abilities. It doesn't take money. We all can be consistent. One of the biggest books that I read about this that really, really helped, I read this in my 20s, was called The Compound Effect. And he said, every time you're consistent, you strengthen your consistency muscle. And every time you decide not to do what you said you were going to do, you weaken your consistency muscle. So he's like, don't miss one day. If you told yourself you're going to go to the gym 5 days this week, you better go all 5. If you only go 4, you now don't believe yourself the next time you set a goal. And I was like, okay, whatever I say I'm going to do, I'll always do, because I want to strengthen that consistency muscle. And it is the superpower of success, for sure.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through real estate, business, and investment. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode from the Bricks and Banks podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today I have the happiness experts in the house. He's the number one best-selling author in terms of happiness. It's Matt O'Neill in the building, and he's joining us all the way from the other side of the pond, Charleston, South Carolina. Today's guest is someone who has done what most people only dream about. He has sold over $3 billion worth of real estate. He has helped more than 5,000 families build wealth, and he has built a company so good to work for that it has been voted the number one workplace in the entire state of South Carolina out of 470,000 businesses. So it's not just out of 10 businesses he's the best. He's the number one by a landslide in the whole state of South Carolina. But here's what makes this conversation totally different. He got to the top and realized that money wasn't enough. We're talking to $1 million best author seller here. So he has been there, done that. And when he got there, he was like, okay, this is not all about money. He went on a decade-long mission to figure out what actually makes people happy. He studied under some of the greatest minds on the planet. He wrote a number one best-selling book about it, and he's now teaching people that happiness isn't a reward for success, it is a strategy. Matt O'Neill is a Forbes book author. He's an happiness expert, and he's a CEO of Matt O'Neill Real Estate. Matt, your profile is intimidating. Welcome to the pod today.
Stephanie, I'm so happy to be here with you. And you have a top 5% podcast in the world. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's not easy. That's not easy to have such a big following. But the people that are listening to this podcast, I see why. They're magnetically attracted to you and your energy.
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. Well, let's talk about you. How did you get here? Like, were you always the happy guy? Because when I got your email, I was just happy. Like, okay, what is this about this guy? I can say that, yes, you're the happiness expert, because when I got your email, it was just an acknowledgement email, but I was happy. I was cheerful. I'm like, okay, I like this vibe. How did you get here?
Well, I wasn't happy yesterday, and I thought that was very appropriate. I was frustrated and annoyed and tired yesterday. Okay. And so this morning in my journal, I was thinking, okay, I talk about how to be happy regardless of your circumstances, and yet I'm struggling with it right now. So it's impossible to be happy every moment of every day, all the time. But I looked at what happened yesterday, and I had disappointments. Things didn't go the way I wanted them to go. I was a podcast guest on somebody's podcast, and we had an awesome conversation. It was amazing. I got up very early, 6:30 in the morning, my time, to accommodate him because the time difference. And we get all done with the podcast, and he said, "Forgot to hit record."
For real?
And I said, "No
worries." Is that a prank? Was that supposed to be an April Fool's prank?
No, but it was April Fool's. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't a prank. And I said, "No worries. We'll do this again some other time." I really like him and I love his
Okay.
podcast.
Some other
And
time makes
so
sense because
then later that morning, we've been working on a big database migration with my real estate company.
yeah,
And our team has been over backwards and we've done all this homework and we have gotten ready and we were ready to launch it. And the girl that is helping us, she says, "No, you guys did all your work, but I didn't get mine done. And I'm going out of town for a week. So there's nothing we can do. Thank you for showing up today. I just didn't get my stuff done." And so then I was disappointed. And then I
mm,
had a meeting and I was expecting people to be there and people couldn't come. And so I was disappointed. And it was like this day, one thing after
after
another,
the next.
I was expecting things to be a certain way and they weren't that
Yeah,
way. And I get to the end of the day and I have 4 kids and my wife has to take one of them to cheer practice. And so I have 3 of them. One's going to tennis that I'm responsible for. One's going to basketball that I'm responsible for. One is 4 years old, and I need to make dinner, and I need to put the 4-year-old to bed and do all the things. And I was just because the day didn't go the way I wanted it to go, I
yeah,
felt even more exhausted. So I was tired, and the kids need me, and I didn't want to make dinner. And so I looked at all of this, and I was like, okay, sometimes things just don't go our way.
many times, many
And
times.
the point is, how can we be happy when things don't go our way? I wasn't able
Hmm.
to do it yesterday, but I woke up this morning and I said, well, today is a new day and I'm going to look at all of these things that didn't go my way. And then I'm going to look at the blessings that are in my life anyway, because all of these things are blessings. The
Yeah,
fact that I had somebody in Ireland who's super cool that I even get to talk to. Sure, we
yeah.
didn't record the episode, but I got to talk
Right.
to
Had
him.
a good time. Yeah.
We had a great conversation. I learned some things, he learned some things, we connected. I was just saying, "Okay, I'm grateful for that experience." And then the database migration didn't go the way I wanted it, but how cool that I have somebody that's working to make it right, and it's not happening on my timeline. So, one of the keys to happiness is when things don't go our way is to say, "But what is going my way?" And focus
Mm,
on the things that are blessings. When we're not happy, we're focusing on things that aren't going right. And that's as simple
yeah.
as it is.
But that's true. I think it's very simple, but it's very profound because at the end of the day, is someone who's alive that has struggles. If the dead don't struggle about anything, they can't be bothered because they're dead. But once you're alive, you're breathing, like, yeah, and you have struggles. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and I was just, yeah, after I went through surgery and was in recovery. So I couldn't move. I couldn't like move without considerable amount of pain. But it just made sense to say that you're worried about, oh, migration not working out as expected within the timeline, hitting hit record of the podcast. But these are things you're able to do with ease. But someone else says stories like, oh, they can't even get out of bed and it's a medical condition. So, like you said, just figure out what's going right. Your breathing, it's going right, right? Some people use machines, need oxygen machines to breathe. So, just pick what's going right and be grateful for it. And when you do that, God would reward that consciousness of gratitude. Like the popular saying that gratitude is good attitude. Once you're grateful for the small things, the bigger wins come your way.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Gratitude's my favorite emotion. And I was praying yesterday and
Hmm.
I prayed, I said, "God, help me be grateful today." And he answered my prayer today. But I wasn't able to be grateful yesterday. And
Yeah.
I want to be real. Like sometimes we are tired. It is very hard to be happy when we're exhausted. It just is. When you're exhausted, it's hard. Happiness requires energy. So I talk about like lots of different habits that we can do to be a happier person
Yeah.
because anyone can get into an unhappy state, but it does require us to have gratitude. So I've got a bunch of gratitude practices that I do every single day to help me be more and more and more grateful. The opposite of gratitude is entitlement. And entitlement says I deserve something or I'm owed something or things should go the way I want them to go. Well, if we are entitled and we feel like things should go the way I want them to go and they don't and they won't, then we'll always be disappointed and we'll never be happy.
That's true. Wow. Okay, let's talk about the business side of things. You've built a $3 billion real estate empire. and you've done that for over the past 2 decades. And you realized that you weren't happy when you got to the top. So can you take us back to that moment where it clicked that success wasn't actually what it was for you when you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are all brainwashed into
Mm,
thinking that financial success will bring us happiness. Think about the TV commercials we saw growing up, the fancy cars and the
yeah.
beautiful people, and then we look at the celebrities, and we all want to be these really successful people because that's what society puts on pedestals. And
Yes.
so I think all of us are brainwashed into thinking that if we want to be happy, and we all want to be happy, that the path to get there is success. And so I gave everything I had to becoming the most successful financially, business, power, all of that I could. And I was good at it. And I found a lot of success and a lot of financial success. And then I accomplished every goal I'd ever set and then more. And I was not happy. And I'm thinking, is this all there is?
Mm,
What I could have done was double down, set bigger goals, continued to chase a ever expanding goal line that never is accomplished, and become a workaholic and pushed all my loved ones away, all trying to accumulate more and more and more and more and more of things I don't even need. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. They put success at all costs. Thankfully, before I pushed the goal line further away and did the exact same thing again and pushed the people that love me away,
yeah.
I said, there's got to be a better way. And so I started to study the greatest spiritual leaders in the world. I started to get spiritual coaches. I started to talk to all the happiness experts that I possibly could. I created a podcast that became a really popular podcast called The Good Mood Show. And I interviewed all the happiness experts all over the place. And
Okay.
all of these people gave me all of these tips about what happiness really is. And the number one thing, Harvard did a study. It's the longest study on happiness ever done. It just concluded. It was 100 years of studying people about what makes us happy. And we would think that more money would make us happier, like I said, or success would
Yeah.
make us happier, or status, or even physical ability. You said, hey, you can get out of bed. That's a good thing. But people who can't get out of bed are happier than those who can if one thing is present, and it's the quality of our relationships.
That's
So
true.
the number one happiness correlating factor is quality relationships. And crazy, chasing success at all costs actually pushes relationships away and actually harms our happiness.
That's true. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you're on a quest. At the end of the day, we're on a quest for fulfillment. When on Maslow's theory of actualization, self-actualization is the highest point. I've forgotten what it's called. Maslow's theory of
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
hierarchy of needs, exactly. So the self-actualization bit is the top of the chain because once you can cover all your needs, what exactly is the meaning of life? It's just like the proverbial Solomon, King Solomon in the Bible. He was the richest king that ever lived. And when he had all that wealth and everything, he now wrote in Ecclesiastes that vanity upon vanity, all is vanity. But people will argue that, well, he lived that life. He got to that point before he could say it's all vanity. That let them also strive to get to that point before
And
they
me
can
too.
call it rubbish. So,
And me
what's your response to such
Me too.
pushbacks?
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had to. I had to climb the success ladder. It
Mm,
was in me. I had to see that through, and I think many of us do. And so once I achieved and achieved and achieved and achieved this dream life, right?
yeah.
And it is. It's a dream life. Having money gives you freedom and it gives you options,
Yes.
and it opens doors, and the different relationships you get to have, or the different conversations you get to have. You don't have to do things that you don't want to do. I don't
True.
have to clean my house. When I was little, I had to clean the toilets for my mom because we didn't have money to hire somebody to help us. I had to cut the grass. I had to pick up the dog poop. All those things I don't have to do. So
Yeah.
that when you have fewer things you have to do, you have more freedom. And one of the keys to happiness is autonomy and freedom. So
That's
I'm not
correct.
saying that it doesn't harm you. Being successful doesn't harm your ability to be happy. In fact, it may enhance it, but it's not required. So I
Thank
had
you.
to achieve, hopefully, because this was the trade-off. I also, in order to be happier, needed to achieve less. So
What do you mean?
there was a conscious decision to work less,
Okay.
to sacrifice what could be greater success or greater financial success in
Mm-hmm.
order to spend more time with my children and more time with my wife and more time on my fitness and more time studying and reading and growing in different ways that weren't just financial success. You have to make that trade off at some point. And some people make it early. I have an older brother. He said, I'm not going to climb the corporate ladder. He said,
Yeah.
I don't want to. I want to leave my work at 5 o'clock, and then I want to spend my afternoons with my kids, and I don't want to have to worry about managing people or people calling me at night. I want to be free so that I can spend my time with my children. So he made that choice younger than me to sacrifice his success to spend more time with the people that he loved. He probably was happier through his 20s and 30s than I was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like talking about your drive for success, have you always been like this? Can you take us back to your childhood, how it was growing up for you, and how you got into the real estate space?
Yeah, most people who are very driven to succeed are doing it from a wound, and I
Mm,
certainly was. The primary wound, and I talk in my book, I talk about how there's only 8 bad moods. There's only 8 negative emotions that are primary. And the most primary wound and the most destructive bad mood emotion there is this wound that says, "I'm not enough as I am."
mm,
And that wound that says I'm not as enough or I'm not lovable then says, well, in order to be enough, I'll achieve and prove that I'm worthy. I'll prove I'm worthy of love and admiration. And so that was definitely me. And as a kid, my dad didn't show affection or have anything nice to say, actually. And in fact, he was really terrifying and I was afraid of him. But my mom showered me with love and attention when I did well in school. So I said, all right, well, I'll just do really, really well. And then maybe she'll protect me from him. And then my dad abandoned us. And then I said, well, I'll just keep achieving because people love me when I'm achieving. And that
yeah.
wound kind of drove me to I'll achieve, achieve, achieve. And that's why I think a lot of us can get to the top of the success mountain and still feel empty because we've
Mm,
been trying to fill a hole that we can't fill with money.
okay, that makes sense. So, did you have like a coach or a mentor that put you through in the real estate side of things, or was it something you just found yourself doing?
I prayed about it.
Okay.
When I got out of college, the first job I could get was selling used ink that went inside of printer cartridges. So I sold toner cartridges that went inside of printers. And it wasn't a very glamorous job, and nobody cares about what kind of ink is in their printer cartridge.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a few years. And then I said, well, I'm pretty good at selling things. What could I sell that would help people? And I wanted to help. I wanted to be of use. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And I was praying about it. And the answer came to me that I could help people with their home. And so at age 25, I decided to get into real estate to help people with their homes. And then from there, started to hire people and grow a big company to help people with their homes.
So, what type of real estate does your company specialize in? Is it just multifamily, or you do more of industrial and commercial real estate?
Residential and multifamily is our
Okay.
specialties in
Okay.
property management.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So I know your company has been voted the number one happiest company, the best workplace in South Carolina. How did you get there? Were you strategically working towards that goal when you set out, or it was something that just came off of when you realized that you wanted to be happy and you wanted your employees to be happy as well?
Yeah, we didn't start as the happiest place
Yeah.
because, again, I was driven from a wound. I
Hmm.
was very hard on myself and
Yeah.
I expected perfection from myself. And then I expected perfection from everyone who worked with me. And so they could never live up to my standards. And I was a very difficult person to work for. It was through my transformation of loving myself and accepting myself and then choosing to see the good in me rather than what's not good enough. And then starting to see the good in everyone else and then affirming the good in them that a decade later, everyone around me is feeling super happy and fulfilled. And even if they make mistakes or they're not perfect, they know it's going to be okay. Happy people really are the most productive people. So
That's true.
we changed our core values. One of the cornerstone core value of the company is kindness.
Hmm.
And crazy enough, the more kind we are, the happier we are. So you walk into my office and in big red letters right on the wall, it says kindness. And then we're like, okay, well, we're really kind to people who do business with us. We're really kind to each other.
Hmm.
And the people that do business with us, they're not always kind because they're stressed out. And the other agents in the town that do business, they're not always kind. But our choice is to be kind. And
Yeah.
so while they're stressed out and mean and angry, and even if they give their meanness and angriness towards us, we still work with compassion. We're just happy.
Nice. So when you do your hiring process in terms of bringing in team members, what are the key qualities you look out for in order to match the culture of the company?
Yeah, number one is culture fit.
Mm-hmm.
So after 20 years, we can spot who's not kind. It's not in the beginning when you're interviewing, it's not easy to spot culture
Yeah.
because you're looking for lots of things when you're hiring. But our number one filter is, are they a kind person? And if they're kind, good. Okay, now we're going to look at number 2. Will they work hard? Because there's lots of kind people that also won't work hard.
Yeah.
But if you're kind and you'll work hard, then we can teach you the skills.
That makes sense. It's easier to teach someone with the right attitude than press on someone without the attitude, because at the end of the day, people need to enjoy who they work with and where they work, because that's where we spend the most amount of our time. We spend the most of our time at work. So it's best to make it a happy place. I know you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier about the 8 bad moods that keep people stuck in your book. Can you run that down and let us know which of them you think is the most financially destructive?
Well, I just said the first of the bad moods is the feeling that we're not enough as we are.
Yeah.
That can be financially beneficial because
Yes.
you could try to fill that wound with success, but it's just not happy.
Uh-huh.
Here's the reality. We can be both financially successful and happy at the
Good.
same time, and I'm proof of it. In fact,
Yeah.
once I started to become happier and happier and happier, my finances continued to rise. So, it's not mutually exclusive. We can be happy and successful at the same time. The
Okay.
next of the bad moods that also can help us be good at making money is guilt or judgment, which are the same thing. So
Okay.
if we're super judgy about other people, this is how I was like really hard on myself and hard on other people. That like desire for perfection, that can help us be more successful. But if we have too much guilt and judgment, and if we have too much shame and feeling that I'm not enough, then we eventually spiral into another negative mood, which is hopelessness. This is depression.
Mm,
Depression will sabotage all success because you can't even get out of bed.
it's true.
So the first two, while they may drive you to achieve, they can lead to the third one, which is depression,
Mm,
because you realize no matter how much I do or how much I achieve, I still don't feel good. So then what's the point? But each mood is a stepping stone to the next one, and we can
okay.
continue to elevate. I call it the progression of moods, and we're gonna talk about like the good ones because there's 8 positive emotions we can step to that make us feel really, really, really good. So the next negative emotion is sadness or grief.
Mm,
And sadness sometimes in a lot of times if we were driven by these wounds to become successful, we can look back and say, well, I did all of this and it didn't even matter because I still don't feel good. So I'm kind of sad about the way I spent my time. The next negative emotion is fear. Fear doesn't help us. You can be overly paranoid about all the things that could go wrong. So a little bit of paranoia about what can go wrong is okay, but if we have too much fear or anxiety, we won't take bold action. And if you want to make wealth, you have to be bold. There's no
yeah.
way around it. And even if you make wealth,
Fortune favors the brave.
yes. So, and everyone feels fear, me included, but like the antidote to fear is action. So as you feel fear, you just take action anyway in the face of it, and that's what makes fear subside. If you don't take action, then the fear grows bigger. Fear will sabotage success for sure. And as I said, a little bit's okay. because you need to know what can harm you, but you just don't want to focus on it at all. You just want to take bold action. A guided bold action is going to be the best case, because even if you fail, at least you learn something and then you just take more bold action. The next negative emotion that also can help you make money is desire.
Okay.
Desire is negative though, because ultimately you can never fulfill it. There
Hmm.
are so many unhappy billionaires that are living in the emotion of desire, more and more and more and more and more. It's never enough. From there, we get to anger. Anger doesn't help. The only time anger can help us be successful is if we look at ourselves. If we say, like yesterday when I was upset with this girl who didn't do her job,
Yeah.
she said that she was going to have it done and then she didn't. And I was upset with her. That's not helpful. All that's going to do is deteriorate our relationship. And she's someone who's here to help me. And sure, she's not perfect. She didn't do her job right yesterday. But if I get angry with her and then she feels it and she could feel it that I was frustrated with her, that's going to be detrimental to my success. So
Hmm.
a lot of times I've had people tell me, well, when I get angry, I work harder and then that helps me. It never helps. So the only time anger would help is if we look at ourselves and say, "What could I do better?" In
Yeah.
the situation with that girl yesterday, I'm just thinking about how I was frustrated and angry about her not doing her job. What could I have done about that? Well, I think if you really are frustrated with somebody, the best thing to do is to make sure you get out of the situation before you say anything hurtful,
Yeah.
and and then go work on your emotions before you see each other. So today I have a to-do item in my pocket to send her an apology. And I didn't say anything mean. I didn't yell. I was but the look on my face was
Looks good,
disappointed and
cute.
frustrated. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And then that probably made her feel like worse about she just made an honest mistake. It probably made her feel worse that I was so frustrated. So I want to fix that. All right. And then the final emotion that's negative is pride.
Pride.
This is where I was living. The downside to pride is you start to believe that you are responsible for your success and everything is because of your efforts. And
Hmm.
you can't see your flaws. You think you are infallible and that you are incredible and you're so proud of yourself. And then you discount what everybody else is doing that's helping you achieve. And you discount God who gave you the abilities to achieve anyway. And you think, well, it's me. I'm doing all of this. I'm great.
Hmm.
They say pride comes before the fall because it does. The world, God, everyone else will have to humble you if you continue to act that way. And that's what happened to me. I got humbled. And that's actually our first good mood. Our first good mood, the gateway to all other happiness starts with humility.
This is the stepping stone into everything good. Yeah, because that's one of the core principles Jesus taught when he was on earth. He taught about being humble. He humbled himself even to death on the cross. So it's just profound to say that humility basically crushes down a lot of barriers really. Because people would resonate well with a humble person. Oh, I don't know this. Can you teach me or can you guide me? It takes a level of humility to even ask questions. But if you just feel like, oh, everything I can do everything by myself, you're gonna hit a wall. And God would not show us the full path. That's why this, I don't know if you're familiar with scripture. It says, your words a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So the lamp unto the feet, I had the privilege of seeing what that means. It basically take a small touch and tie it on their feet. So you can only see far enough to take the next step. God is not going to just show us the full picture because if we know the full picture, then we don't need God. We just go ahead and do our own thing. So He wants us to depend on Him. And same way in the workplace, there should be that level of humility because that would give you the opportunity to ask questions, to look for a mentor that would guide you into doing what you have to do. So definitely it's the biggest stepping stone into the whole good mood revolution, like
And
you put it in your
in,
book.
in the Bible, it says, those who exalt themselves will be humbled,
Humbled.
and those who
Exactly.
humble themselves will be exalted.
Exalted. Yes.
Uh, in and it doesn't that line doesn't make sense
Hmm.
when you're living pridefully. You just wouldn't even get and when I was living pridefully, I wouldn't have even gotten it. In fact, I was not into scripture and I was not into Jesus and I was not into the Bible or God or church when I was prideful and achieving.
Mhm.
But once I was humbled, and the world will humble you if you continue to act that way. And thank God I was humbled. And then I listen because what happens is it can take you to your knees, and it took me
Mm-hmm.
to my knees, and then I was in prayer, and I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, my way didn't work. My way, sure, it produced financial success, but I emotionally am a wreck, and I need help, and
Yeah.
guide me." And then God says, "Great, finally, you stop thinking it was all up to you." And
Yes.
when you humble yourself too, you start to say thank you to everyone who's helping you. So I had people in
That's
my
correct.
company that I wasn't saying thank you to. I had people in my company that were giving me their work that I was taking for granted. I had my wife who was giving me her life, and I was taking some of that for granted. I have children that are alive, and I was taking the fact that they're alive for granted.
Mm.
So that's why humility can lead us to all the other good moods. From humility at that point, we can then start to be grateful. And now we're grateful to people, and we're grateful to
Yeah.
God, and we're grateful to the fact that we still can see with our eyes and walk with our feet, and then when other people can't. And gratitude is such a powerful happiness emotion. But what's really cool is the more grateful you are, the more other people like you, and then the
That's
more
true.
they want to be around you, and the more
Yeah.
people want to be around you, the more they want to help you, and the more they help you, the more successful you are. Well, all of those negative emotions, some of them can help you be successful. They do it in a way where people despise you at the same time.
Yes. And the three powerful words, please, thank you, sorry. Once you say these words, it basically breaks down even the hardest of hearts because people, even if they don't want to admit it, they appreciate you thanking them. They appreciate you saying sorry to them, especially when you hurt them. They appreciate you telling them sorry or please be just being cautious. It doesn't take anything from people, but the world is so up in their heads today, and they find it very difficult to say those three magic words, and it opens a lot of doors. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on time. Thank you for being here. It just helps to improve the overall mood. So I see why your company is basically voted number one happiest company in South Carolina. I'm talking about your wife. I know you both run businesses together with 80 plus employees and over $8 million in revenue. So when it comes to the money conversations you guys have, what do you see couples completely avoiding and that topic costing them in the long run? Because I know it's very difficult for couples to talk about money. The money is like the friction rush in the conversation. So how do you navigate such conversations?
I highly recommend what we do. And I got this from somebody else, and I don't know who, but somebody maybe a decade ago said, you need to have a weekly scheduled meeting with your spouse about finances.
Mm.
And I thought that seemed like overkill. I'm like, we need to meet every single week to talk about finances. Like what? The grocery bill? Like what are we going to talk about every single week? And he said, you and your wife, just as you just said, Stephanie, so eloquently. You're so well read, and you're so wise. I love everything you've been saying.
Thank you.
But if the most amount of friction in a marriage shows up with finances, and
Exactly.
the number one thing that would derail your happiness is a spouse conflict, then we should have a weekly meeting with our spouse to talk about finances so that we're on the same page. So
Mm.
every single Friday, Katie and I sit down together at noon and we talk about finances. I have a Google Doc. We start out with, hey, what's going great this week? Not financial, just everything.
Yep.
We'll talk about how we had an Easter egg hunt with our son and how cute he was. And we'll talk about, the vacation that we have coming up and all the things we're excited about. And
Mm.
then we go into, okay, how much cash do we have? What expenses do we see? What's the projection for the income that we think is going to come in this month and next month and the month after? And what are some issues that we need to talk about? And it's on a doc, and we fill it out, and we
Yeah.
sit down and we talk about it. And what's interesting is I'm really bold, as I said, I'll take big risks. My wife is very conservative, and she does not want to risk. If we didn't have this meeting, I would probably take risks without discussing them with her. And then she would feel worried and anxious and resentful that I was doing things that made her feel uncomfortable. And I would take risks that would actually harm us. Because of this meeting, I'm thinking of taking a risk. It goes on the agenda. My wife
Mm.
says, I don't like that risk because here's the different ways we could get hurt. And the two of us have a healthy discussion about it. And
Yeah.
we have mutual respect because there are many times her caution has helped us. And there are
Mm.
many times my boldness has helped us. So she respects my boldness because it's helped us. And I respect her caution because it's helped us. And the two of us have a weekly discussion about what's actually going to be best for our family as a whole. And
Nice.
every single week.
Nice. I feel like you're giving us relationship advice right now. Very practical. I know your book is called The Good Mood Revolution. Can you share a bit about the book and what are the core principles you were achieving when writing that book? You want the reader to achieve.
Yeah, the first half of the book is about how to conquer bad moods. And we
Okay.
can't actually feel happy, like really authentically happy,
Mm.
until we address the 8 negative emotions that we discussed earlier. We could get little glimpses of happiness. Like we could see a beautiful sunset and feel joyful, or we could have a great conversation with somebody and feel connected. But if there's still these core wounds and these negative emotions that are driving us, like pride or
Mm.
anger or shame or guilt or any of the 8 negative emotions, the negative thoughts will come back and then we'll feel anxious and afraid and upset again. So the first half of the book is how to get rid of the thought patterns that create those emotions. And then the second half of the book is how to live in the 8 positive primary good moods. And once we eliminate the negative emotions or learn how to, like as I said
Yeah.
yesterday, anger and frustration showed up for me. And I'm normal, but anger and frustration shows up one day out of 30. And then I can
Mm.
wake up the next day and know what it is, why it showed up, why it's here, and then what to do about it. Okay, well, as you said, one of those powerful words we can say is sorry. And while I didn't say anything rude, I'm going to say sorry for the look on my face,
Mhm.
right? And then you know what that's going to do? It's going to make her feel better and it's going to make me feel better and we're both going to be more joyful today because of that action.
Yeah. Amazing. So for someone listening right now and needs to take something, the person is scrambling, has a couple of amounts in savings, trying to double down on their shifts, trying to work towards achieving the goal, trying to they're just stacking their savings and they're just stressed out about their finances. And because of that, they're skipping fun, they're skipping out the weekends, they're not even taking the Easter break. They just want to work some more so they can get paid. What do you say to that person?
First of all, congratulations. Way to do everything that it takes. Look, you're not going to be successful if you're not willing to do whatever it takes. So, one of the most important financial people of my life, one of my mentors, not I've met him a couple of times, but he wasn't a personal mentor. It was just through his
Okay.
books and his work, was Dave Ramsey.
Mm.
And Dave Ramsey has what he calls financial peace, and he has his baby steps to financial peace. And in Dave Ramsey's work, he has you cut up your credit cards and he recommends what he calls the debt snowball. You take your smallest debt
Yeah.
and you put all of your energy at paying your smallest debt off until it's gone. And now
Mm.
you have one less payment. And then you take your next smallest debt. So for me, my wife had a credit card and I had a credit card when we met. And I was doing Dave Ramsey's work and we're hustling and grinding and working all day and trying to get ahead. And I wasn't making millions of dollars at the time and my wife wasn't either. We were just working ordinary jobs. Like I said, I sold toner cartridges. It wasn't glamorous.
Yeah.
But the first thing we did was pay off my credit card. We took all of our extra money and paid off my credit card. Well, that freed up $300 a month. And then we took that $300 and all the other stuff we were doing and we put it on Katie's credit card. And then that freed up another $500 a month. We were $800 a month richer. It took us 6 months, but we got both of those credit cards paid off in 6 months. Well, then we took that 800 plus everything else that we could and we paid off my car. And that freed up another 500. And then we took the 1,300 a month plus the money that we had and we paid off Katie's car. That freed up another 500. So now we were almost $2,000 a month of cash flow richer. Like, what can you do with $2,000 a month? And this is Dave Ramsey's plan: is pay off your small debts so you don't
Mm.
have monthly payments. Eventually, this $2,000 a month turns into an emergency fund and it turns into an investment account and it turns into buy real estate. And then you can really build wealth when you start to, instead of paying the banks their interest,
Yeah.
you start to buy things that pay you back. And that's how you
Mm,
become wealthy. So, to the person that is grinding and working 2 jobs and doing whatever it takes, reduce your expenses for now and pay off all of your small debts and then invest.
that's like the simplest and the best strategy I've heard in a very long time. Like I just like the fact that you keep it very simple. Pay off all your debts. It will take time, like you said. It's you have to plan it strategically, and but once you're able to pay off that debt and cancel that credit card, the peace that comes to you that passes all understanding will guide you into your investments.
He called and I went and saw Dave Ramsey's office.
Yeah.
And there is a scripture over the front door, and it says and it was, I took a picture of it because it was so powerful to me, but he did say, though, something about how the ultimate peace is only the peace of God. So even as we pay off all these debts and we have more money,
You
people
don't
we
have
know will
God.
still die, people will still get sick, we'll get sick, and money isn't gonna heal us, right? Only God can do that. And when people die, money's not going to make the pain go away. Only God can do that. So ultimately, if we want true peace, we need to have a relationship with our creator.
Wow. I like how this has turned from happiness talk into money talk, and now we're talking about salvation. So, yes, we're in the season, so let's get right with God. That brings us to the second part of the segment, which is the firecracker round. And this is me just asking you a bunch of questions, trying to know you better, and making sure you're not AI generated. So, so what's something you believed about money in your 20s that you would completely disagree with today?
In my 20s,
Yeah.
I believed that what I don't know what I would disagree with. We've talked about a lot about money
Yeah.
and today. The biggest thing that we talked about was that money would bring happiness, but it just
Maybe
doesn't.
it's a hustle culture. Cause I know like growing up we're taught to grind, grind, grind the hustle culture. You need to get to this point. That's when you get fulfilled or you make this much money before you get married and all that's different advices that don't put food on your table.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so, one of the biggest ahas I had in my 20s about money
Mm,
was that we have a money thermostat, and
okay.
that
What does
if,
that mean?
let's say, our money thermostat is set to $5,000,
Mm,
anytime we get more than $5,000, we'll have some type of disaster that will cause us to spend the money to get back to 5,000. So we might get up to 7,000 in savings, and then all of a sudden we're like, I just got into a car crash and I need to go finance a new car. Or we'll get up to $10,000 and we'll say, you know what? I've got some extra money. Let's go refurnish our house, and then we'll get back to 5. And so this was the money thermostat was a big aha for me. And he said, what you need to do is raise your money thermostat. And so and it 5,000 was my number. I had 5,000 in savings. Just about that was kind of what I would hold on to. And I said, what if I had 50,000 in savings? So then I just said, all right, my new goal is to get to 50,000 in savings. And I would get to 10 and feel like that urge that money's burning a hole in my pocket and I need to go buy something or do something and spend this money. And I'd be like, no, 10's not where my thermostat is, 50 is. And so I wouldn't
okay.
spend it and
Yeah.
keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. And then eventually got to 50,000 in savings. And that was a big
Wow.
aha for me about money.
Well, that's very impressive. What's one book that changed the way you think about money?
There's a book called Happy Money.
Happy money.
In Happy Money, the author, she talks about how we can spend our money in the most joyful way.
Mm,
And and of course we already know some of these things, but they changed my mindset about how money can make us happy. Some of the most joyful things we can do with money are spend it on other people. If we buy gifts or
yeah.
help somebody or do something kind with that money, we feel super good about ourselves as we're making the world a better place. Spend it on experiences rather than items. It'd be better to not redo your kitchen, but to take the trip to the Galapagos. The kitchen eventually you'll get tired of. The trip to the Galapagos is a once in a lifetime opportunity
Live
that
forever.
that will stay with you forever and ever and ever. And the last thing she said that had an effect on me was buy a smaller house
Okay.
in the area that you want to live in, where
Mm,
you don't have to commute that far and you don't have to sit in traffic. and you can walk to things that you want to see, and you can ride your bike, and you can be outdoors, because being outdoors makes us happier. Having a short commute makes us happier. And the size of our house does not matter about our happiness. But most people go buy the biggest house they can and then suffer with a long commute, and then spending an hour each way in traffic makes them unhappy. But the big house doesn't even matter.
That's true. So, what's a belief most people hold about success that you think is completely wrong?
That successful people are gifted in some way.
Okay. So
I
then,
don't think I think anyone can be successful. I really do. All success really takes is commitment. I love the book Think and Grow Rich.
yeah.
Napoleon Hill said, if you want to be successful, there's a three-part equation. You have to have an absolutely
Mm,
burning desire, insatiable burning desire for a goal. And then you have to put that goal in writing. And then you need to make a plan to achieve that goal. And then the third step is never stop until you get it. He said, if
mm,
you do that, you'll success is guaranteed. It just
amazing.
most people, I think that, like, oh, that person was blessed, or they were born with a certain ability, or they were born with a, whatever that I don't have. It's not true. This person was just obsessed about their goal and then didn't stop until they achieved it. It might have taken them 20 years. It might have taken them 20 years, but if you don't stop, you can have success too.
Exactly. I think I read somewhere that the biggest life hack is consistency. Once you can do that same thing, like be so obsessed about your goals and you keep making action, keep putting in the efforts, you're going to see the results eventually. So the thing is that most people don't commit to doing things. They do things for like a couple of months and a couple of weeks, and they're done. Especially when they don't see the instant gratification. I remember at the start of the year, we're like, "Oh, I want to go to the gym some more. I want to do this some more." Like tons of goals, but this is a new quarter, and everybody has forgotten about whatever the New Year
Not you.
resolution was. Definitely
Not you,
not.
Stephanie. You put this podcast out on time, every time. You're very consistent. Consistency is the superpower. Anyone can be consistent. Anyone can. It doesn't take special intelligence. It doesn't take special abilities. It doesn't take money. We all can be consistent. One of the biggest books that I read about this that really, really helped, I read this in my 20s, was called The Compound Effect. And he
Mm,
said, every time you're consistent, you strengthen your consistency muscle. And every
yeah.
time you decide not to do what you said you were gonna do, you weaken your consistency muscle.
Mm,
So he's like, "Don't miss. Don't miss one day. If you told yourself you're gonna go to the gym 5 days this week, you better go all 5. If you only
mm,
go 4, you now don't believe yourself the next time you set a goal." And I was like, "Okay, whatever I say I'm gonna do, I'll always do, because I wanna strengthen that consistency muscle." And it is the
absolutely.
superpower of success, for sure.
Well, I've learned a new thing today, the consistency muscle. So continue working on it. So how do you unwind and reset? I know you're a happy man, but you're not always happy because you've taken us through your emotions. How do you unwind and reset when life gets stressful?
It's so important, right? So I always want something planned on the calendar,
Mm,
and I always have something planned on the calendar. We're working so hard, like we're pushing the red line of the engine so
yeah.
hard, and we're always consistent. And I'm going to the gym, and I'm like I said yesterday kind of felt like a grind that I've got beautiful children. They're the best. They are the best kids. And they're like, "Dad, will you play hide and seek with me?" And I'm like, and I did. I played hide and seek. I just wasn't happy while I was doing it. So that became a grind. But tonight, my wife and I have a date without the kids. We have a babysitter
Yay.
and we have a date. And that's on the calendar. And we are looking forward to it. And it's circled. And so while
Mm,
yesterday I was making tacos by myself and putting the kids to bed and doing all these things while we're running around, I also knew that the next night we had a date. So there's my number one piece of advice is to always have something on the calendar. We have got a vacation coming up. We're going to Spain.
yay. That's
It's at
nice.
the end of May.
Okay.
Again, it's
Perfect
circled.
summer.
So
Yeah.
it's
Once you
2
have
months
something to look
away.
forward to, you're just
Yes.
happy.
Well, you know there's gonna be a break. And a lot of
Yes.
times, as you said, when we're early in this journey, we are grinding and grinding and grinding and never taking a vacation. Well, if you burn out,
Mm,
you're no longer successful. So one of the ways to avoid burnout is to always have something on the calendar. And it doesn't have to be expensive.
yeah.
Look, Spain is expensive. The flights to get to Spain and all of that, that's expensive. But there are things that are not. I have friends that live in Virginia. They always say, come and spend time with us.
Mm,
Going to Virginia and spending time with my good friends costs us nothing. Anyone can go and have a vacation at a very low amount of money. So I don't want that to be an excuse for not taking a vacation.
nice. Finally, Mats, we've heard so much about you and we want to milk you some more. So how can we reach you? Your websites, socials, how can we get through to you?
Well, before we do that, I just want to say everyone who's listening to this show, you
Yeah.
have got the best show. Make sure you continue to listen to Stephanie. She is the truth. She is so wise. And
Thank
I
you.
am so honored that you chose to have me on today. If somebody wants to learn more, I think the best place is to get the book, The Good Mood
Okay.
Revolution. It's on Amazon, and it's a really good introduction to the work that I do.
Nice. I'll make sure to leave the link in the description. I don't know, do you mind me leaving the link to your LinkedIn profile
Yeah, that would be
or no?
great.
Okay, I'll make sure to leave all that so we can go and bother you. But smart from me to you, it's a big thank you. Thank you so much for being on the pod today. I've learned a lot. Like, I think I've become happier having this conversation. This was very chilled. You kept it very easy to understand, kept the conversations very frank. I like the way you're a man of scripture, fed us with the scripture, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much for being on the pod today.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Signing out.